From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. And hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, joined by my dear friend on the phone.
The hottest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, because I am the man with the plan and the power for the hour. Yours truly, the lady killer himself, Hector Bosa. And I got a question for you. Can you riddle me this? And can you riddle me that? But I still don't see the Batman or the big black bat. But tell me, Jamie, oh Swami, oh Swamis, what will they do with the Staten Island Yankees?
Yeah, that is now a big problem here. In case fans didn't know, the Yankees decided to change their minor league farm system quite a bit. Long story short, the Staten Island Yankees are no more. They've been eliminated, and one other team, the Trenton Thunder, which was doing very well in the Double-A system, also eliminated. And they've eliminated 4 out of the 10 minor league teams that they had in their system. So now they have 6 teams in their system. And this was made possible by the contract between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball expiring and now being replaced by a baseball pipeline, a professional baseball pipeline. So now Staten Island's been eliminated, and in their place are Hudson Valley and the Independent League Somerset Patriots, who used to be managed by Sparky Lyle many years ago.
Well, here's the problem. The pandemic helped get rid of these guys. Okay, the pandemic helped because they were, it's funny how big companies always say we're bleeding money. But the pandemic helped. The fact that the Staten Islanders didn't support, I don't think, the Staten Island Yankees unless they were playing against the Brooklyn Mets.
You mean the Brooklyn Cyclones?
Yeah, the Brooklyn Cyclones, excuse me. Staten Islanders didn't support them. And I know some of those people at the station, they had honchos, don't like when you report about Staten Island teams, but I think you should. Whatever, you can report about Staten Island. We should feel good, because there are a lot of good things that happen on Staten Island. We just don't know about it because, for whatever reason. But unless something extravagant happens, it's like everywhere else in the country. That's when we all band together.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, we could have had the racetrack, because of traffic, because of noise, because of pollution. Because of that, there's always a problem. And when you the big wheel, the giant Ferris wheel that we were supposed to have, look at that great disaster.
Quite frankly, I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, so am I. But with the Staten Island Yankees, that was a new stadium that was supposed to do a lot of stuff, that was supposed to bring people from the New York area, from the other side of the island, from Brooklyn to come over here, and that really never really did happen.
No, unfortunately not. They were supposed to bring Islanders from all over to the ballpark. It got off to a really great start. I mean, they were drawing between 3,000 and 4,000 fans over at the College of Staten Island, and then when they got their new stadium, that's when things, I think, started to decline a little bit. First off, the team was never marketed well. That's number one. Number two, there are just certain baseball fans that are not minor league baseball fans. They only follow the Yankees or the Mets.
True, but when those were reasonable price tickets, and they did try to do what they could. But as usual, they always market to the kids a lot instead of marketing to everybody. You know, I always say that when a kid goes into the hospital, you have about 3 nurses and 3 doctors all attending to this one particular kid because he's afraid and so on. But when you have an older person or an adult in general, depending upon how that adult is, I think they should get the same care. Not just go, okay, we're going to attend to you, you're an adult, you can see TV, now go bye. Have a PlayStation set up for them. Have something set up for these adults or older people the same way you have it for kids. It's incredible how things are when we get to certain stages in our lifetime. But the Giants finally won.
Yeah. Second win of the season.
Aren't you glad that the Giants finally won? Did they show the greatness that they held in their hand?
I'm very happy that the Giants won, to be quite honest with you. And the best part about this whole victory was Daniel Jones protected the football. He didn't commit a fumble. He didn't throw an interception. He was turnover-free for the entire game. Now, the reason why the Giants won was because the Redskins were not able to take care of the football. They committed 5 turnovers in this game.
It's kind of funny, too, because you see this happen all the time where you actually see the quarterback do what he was supposed to do. You can see flashes. Did you see flashes of him actually doing things well?
Yes, I did.
And that's the Daniel Jones that we really want. How come he doesn't appear often? What is it?
Why doesn't he do this all the time? Because he's always taking care. Because he's always turning the ball over. That's why. I mean, you look at his numbers for the season. He's now played all 9 games, and he's committed 9 interceptions for the season. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's also lost 4 fumbles overall. So that's 13 turnovers in 9 games. You can't win games when your quarterback is committing 13 turnovers in the first 9 games of a season. And things are going to get a little bit tougher because they've got the Eagles coming up next weekend. And the Eagles, believe it or not, are the team that is in control of the Eastern Division.
Yeah, and that's something too. I mean, right now, how many games do you expect the Giants to win?
Well, let's look at their schedule for the rest of the season.
Well, get the stats out to see who's in first right now.
All right.
Also,
we mentioned that the Eagles lead the NFC East, and then after that, it's practically a mishmash of a trio of teams that are trying to take control of second. And believe it or not, those teams are one game behind in the win column. Now, as far as the Giants are concerned, let's see here. We mentioned that they have the Eagles coming up. And then after that, they have a bye week. Then after that, they have a winnable game, a more than winnable game against Cincinnati, which has been pretty much showing that they're a rebuilding team for the most part. Then after that, there's Seattle. Then there's Arizona. Then there's Cleveland. Then Baltimore. And then they finish the season with the Dallas Cowboys. So when you think about it, the Giants could probably win maybe 1 more game, 2 if they're lucky, 3 if they know how to execute.
With who?
They could probably win the Cincinnati game because Cincinnati has been a poor team all season. Maybe Cleveland, because Cleveland is a very tough team to figure out. And now that Odell Beckham Jr. is out for the rest of the season, we may have seen we may have seen the last of Odell Beckham Jr. in a Browns uniform. He might be going elsewhere next season. There's a slim chance that maybe they win the Cowboy game to end the season. Tell you what, though,
Yeah.
I don't think any of those teams in the East deserve to make the playoffs this season. They're all terrible.
I'm sure there'll be one.
There's only going to be one, and that's going to be the division champion.
And I'll tell you, they're going to make a big splash. You watch, you see and wait.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, the whole division in itself, name from first to last. Do you have the schedule there?
For who? The Jets?
No, the schedule from first to last. Who's in first place? Who's in last place?
Oh, you mean the standings? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. I already mentioned the NFC East. Let's go to the NFC North.
Ooh, I see something moving. Way to go, Kenny. The spirit is moving him.
Yeah. By the way, let's say thanks to Kenny Graham, who's on the other side of the who's on the other side of the glass. Always doing a great job doing his thing.
And don't forget, go to his hub.
Yes.
Go to the hub.
He's got something really hot going on at his hub every single weekend, if not every single weekend, every other weekend. He's got things going on from artistry to music to movies.
Me? That's why he should have more of me down there, because then he would really get the women and everybody down there.
Kenny just waved you off. And he waved you off again.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Hey, I'm sure in a good way. But, you know,
you wanted to know about the standings for the NFL, right?
Yes, please.
All right, we mentioned the NFC East. Right now, the NFC North, by far the best team in the NFC North is the Packers, because Aaron Rodgers, 1, has been healthy, 2, has been throwing the ball terrifically this season, and 3, he's actually gotten a semblance of a running game for the majority of the season. So Green Bay has the lead at 6-2 right now. Then you have Chicago, which is 5-4. Then Minnesota and Detroit are fighting to stay out of last place. They're each 3-5. Now, the NFC South was highlighted by that big game between the Saints and the Buccaneers last night.
Wait a minute. Did you say the Packers were first?
Yep, the Packers lead the NFC North.
What's their record right now?
They're 6-2.
So how many in that division is going to go making it? At least 3 of them?
They'll be lucky if they get 2 of them, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. Minnesota's been a disappointment. Detroit again has been a disappointment. Chicago has fallen back down to earth. At this rate, I only see one team coming out of the North, and that's the division champion. And at this rate, the division champion is going to be Green Bay.
You don't see no Cinderella team coming out of both divisions.
Not really, no.
All right, next division.
That would be the South.
Yes.
And last night, the 2 teams that were half a game behind in the South, the Saints and the Buccaneers, squared off in Tampa. Boy, was that a flop of a game. New Orleans won by 5 touchdowns. And, I just got an alert that Joe Flacco is going to start for the Jets tonight against the Patriots. Sam Darnold.
Yay! All right, Flacco. Way to go, brother.
Yep,
Show them what a real quarterback is.
And Sam Darnold's shoulder is really killing him, so he's going to be benched tonight.
I feel bad for that to happen, but I think if Flacco gets enough start, well, I'm still waiting for this dude to get fired.
Well,
I'm still waiting for Casey to get
I hate
fired.
to tell you this, but this is not really a guarantee because the guy that's the general manager has become his biggest supporter. So the only way that Adam Gase gets fired is if Joe Douglas also gets fired by the owner, and he decides to go with a total house cleaning.
Because you can't have 2 years straight of losing season, and you don't win one this season. Last year you won by luck, but this year you lost the team. Unless he's going to get rid of all them players that were against him.
You also can't have 10 years in a row of no playoffs either, and that's where the Jets are headed right now. It's painfully obvious the Jets are going to miss the playoffs, and this is going to mark 10 seasons in a row of no playoffs for that poor franchise.
But the thing is, again, Casey's got to go because, like I've been saying all along,
You made your point about that, but like I said, Joe Douglas has been his biggest supporter, and there's a strong possibility he might be coming back next year.
What are the betting odds that he goes? What do you think the odds are that he goes?
If they go 0-16, he's gone. That much is certain. Now, if they go on a little bit of a streak, let's say they split their next 8 games and go 5-3, it's 50-50 that he does return. But I will say this. If they're 0-16, and right now it's looking really good for Jet fans who want to see them get the first pick in the draft, then he definitely is going to be gone. But this is going to require a total house cleaning.
And what do you think of if they do get the number 1 draft choice in the quarterback that doesn't want to play for the Jets?
You mean Trevor Lawrence?
Yes.
He suddenly made it clear he doesn't want to be in New York?
He says he didn't want to play for the Jets the last time I read.
Well, that means that he may want to either hope for the Jets to trade down, or he may come back for his senior season because Lawrence is a junior now.
Because just like the way Eli Manning didn't want to play for Buffalo, and
he also didn't want to play for San Diego either.
Exactly. He got traded to the Giants, and the Giants got another draft pick or so.
And 2 Super Bowls out of it.
Maybe they could do the same for this guy. If they're smart enough, depending upon who they have, But I don't understand. I just don't get that team.
Well, if they don't get Trevor Lawrence, there's always Justin Fields from Ohio State. Although I'd be a little leery about picking these Ohio State quarterbacks. Some of these guys don't pan out really well. Has anybody seen what's happened to Dwayne Haskins with Washington lately? He's not playing at all.
Exactly. So that's why you get very weary and leery about the Jets and all that. But continue on with the standing, please.
Well, I mentioned the NFC South. The Saints and the Buccaneers squared off. The Saints put a real hurting on the Buccaneers last night. 38-3 was the score. And Tom Brady was a turnover machine waiting to happen. So this leads to the question, are we seeing the last of Tom Brady on an NFL field?
Or is it the team that's not working for him? It could be the team. It all depends because, again, we're always talking about age. It may not be his age. It just may be that it's just a new team and he's not connecting with his players yet, or the players are not up to par to what he's used to.
Well, keep in mind, the Buccaneers are 6-3 this year, so before last night, they were playing reasonably good football. So it could be that they just had a really long night, and they might have to just look ahead towards the rest of the season.
Yeah, every time Brady has a bad game, also people are willing to, ready to write him off.
Mm-hmm.
So
By the way,
yeah,
the Saints have already swept the season series from the Buccaneers. Those teams are 1-2 right now, and then after that, you've got Carolina and Atlanta, two teams that are 3-6. At this rate, I think New Orleans wins the South.
really.
Yeah. Drew Brees looks like he's 15 years younger every time he takes the field. His passes are crisp. They've got pinpoint accuracy. He's got a running game that complements him beautifully in Alvin Kamara. Plus, he's got a really good receiving core, a good tight end, and his defense is so underrated that no one gives them the proper respect that they do. Or that they deserve, I should say.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
At this rate right now,
Yeah.
I see Green Bay and New Orleans squaring off against each other for the NFC title.
Green Bay and New Orleans?
Green Bay and New Orleans for the NFC Championship next around in January.
And compare Brady to Belichick now. Who needs who? Does Belichick need Brady or does Brady need Belichick?
Oh, wow.
The big question.
To be quite honest with you, I think Belichick needs Brady a lot more, and he does not want to admit it.
But he's supposed to be the big brain that he can do, work with anybody and get everybody with the system and all that.
Supposedly, but you look at the first half of the year, Brady played reasonably well. I mean, he wasn't terrific, but he practically carried the Buccaneers on his back to 6 wins in the first half of the year. And what happened to the Patriots? Well, the Patriots, they're going into tonight's game with the Jets with a 2-5 record. Not only that, but Cameron Newton looks like he's on his way out of New England and probably out of the NFL altogether after this season, because not only has he not been protecting the football, he doesn't have the same accuracy on his passes like he did in years past.
Is he hurt?
He's had his share of aches and pains here and there, but other than that, he's just not playing well. Now, wouldn't it be something if the Jets got their first win of the year against the slumping Patriots?
Oh, now, that would be some, but would it be sweet?
Yeah, it would be sweet because they would finally be
not
beating.
there and Belichick is just there. I mean,
It would be totally
sweeter.
sweet for the Jets because they would finally be beating Belichick, number one. And two, they would be beating those Patriots that have been giving them hell for almost 20 years.
Yes, but Brady's not there. So it doesn't really
Doesn't
matter. It doesn't matter.
really matter.
As long as you beat the coach.
As long as you beat Belichick. Keep in mind, Bill Belichick was the one that deserted the Jets after a day of being the head coach.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, because he did find something better. But he did. I mean, think about it. He did find something better in the Promised Land.
He found something 10 times better in Foxborough than he did at the Meadowlands.
But I tell you, switching gears, hopefully. So you're picking the Jets to win?
Dare I say that the Jets are going to win their first win their first game of the year? Dare I say that it's going to be at the hands of the Patriots, their hated rivals? No.
So
I think the Patriots win tonight.
All right. Well, I think so too, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, switching gears. I sent you a couple of
Yes, you did.
about the New York Knicks, and isn't that fun that we may get Carmelo Anthony back without getting Chris Paul?
it would have been a hell of a lot better if those two showed up in New York intertwined and wound up wearing uniforms on the same team. But, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, Melo had some of his best seasons in the Knicks uniform.
But I tell you, it's not. Carmelo Anthony was a Knick, but was he really a Knick like Patrick Ewing and so on?
No,
they're making him seem as he's the second coming. He's not the second. He was a good ball player for them. That much they do, do give for him. But let me ask you, what do you think of Isaiah Stewart? Could the
You mean the bad boy?
Yes, the bad boy, Isaiah Stewart. Could the Knicks steal him? Could the Knicks select Aaron Naismith?
Well, quite probably.
You now, FanDuel's giving us not a...
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right, finally music. Yay.
Oh, brother.
Go, baby, go.
Anyway.
And the Knicks reportedly...
The Knicks could use somebody that's along the lines of the kid that they have that played center last year.
Well, what about Justin Holiday, too?
Bringing him back would probably be a good idea. I mean, he's a decent player. Not only that, but he's great for the locker room. So my guess would be maybe the Knicks should get someone who could be locker room fodder for his teammates.
And I just sent you another one called for Michael Kidd.
Michael Kidd-Gilchrist?
Yep.
Yeah, that's been a little bit of a rumor that's been going around, that Kidd-Gilchrist would, in all likelihood, sign with them as a free agent. I mean, he's had an okay career. I mean, he hasn't been great, but he is somebody that could fill a need at point guard.
But considering all the ones that I sent you, right? Who do you see star potential? Who do you really think that they should get out of the names that you just mentioned?
Who should they get as far as the draft is concerned?
Yeah, if they're able to get him in the draft.
As far as the draft is concerned, they're picking 8th. So they're going to hope to get lucky and probably get Obi Toppin from the University of Dayton.
Isn't he a center?
Yes, he is a center. And he's a big, strong center who could really get buckets in that low post.
So you would move Robertson into forward?
Maybe make Mitchell Robertson a power forward. Maybe make Toppin a power forward. I'm not really sure.
Or trade him.
Either way, you can have both of those guys on the same front line.
Because people would say you would trade him then to see who would you get, because the Knicks are already talking about also who do you think they can get if you traded one of them, R.J. Barrett or this guy, Robertson. And they're just testing feelers out there. And I don't think that they're getting what I think they should think they're going to get for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you did decide to trade, let's say, R.J. Barrett or Robertson, who do you think they should get?
If they decided to give up on Barrett, then it would have to be as part of a deal to move up in the draft, maybe to number 4 or number 5, because I doubt they could get the number 1 pick.
Okay.
And maybe if Barrett were to be included, it would have to be a deal for a 3-and-D winger, or maybe a swing guy.
Well, let's see what happens in the draft, but I tell you a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
That should really entertain you for now. You know?
Thank you for that.
No problem, because Obi Toppin,
Mm-hmm.
that's another one that, you know, there's kids out there that they can get. It's just that you're hoping that which one of them will fall into number 8, because you got 1 through 8. And when is the draft again?
A week from Wednesday.
A week from Wednesday. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
That's actually going to be fun. And the NBA contract is also
Officially
on
settled.
right now.
It's officially settled. They're going to start the season December 22nd.
And they're going to play only 72 games.
Yep, they're going to play 72 games. The big difference in this is they're going to play on Christmas Day. They really wanted. They were really pushing to have Christmas Day games this year because that's where they really get a lot of their ratings for the regular season.
The Knicks normally played on Christmas Day.
There was a time when the Knicks playing on Christmas Day was an event. As a matter of fact, I remember the famous Christmas Day game against the Celtics. Patrick Ewing's rookie year, they were down 25, and then they forced overtime and won by 9 against Boston.
Because what normally happens in Thanksgiving, it's Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have to play on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? I think it's the Detroit Lions.
The Lions and the Cowboys always play on Thanksgiving Day.
Now, they don't play against each other. They play against other teams, but they always
Exactly.
play on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And the Knicks always played on Christmas Day.
Yep.
You know?
And Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, that's right. The Knicks always play on Martin Luther King Day, too. That's right. That is exactly right.
As a matter of fact, I have another memory of MLK Day, Knicks and Spurs, 1989. Just a tremendous day. The place was full of fans, and the Knicks wound up winning that game single-handedly. And that was when Larry Brown was in his debut season as the Spurs coach.
Yeah, well, the Knicks will always have full, you know, they will always have fans in there because it's the New York Knicks. Now will they have the same impact now that the Brooklyn Nets are going to be the top team of New York? Is that possible to say?
Well, I know that the Nets are in the right neighborhood to get fans. They're on Atlantic Avenue. Plus, the arena from the inside looks really beautiful.
But I think that with when people still come to travel to New York, the Madison Square Garden is right there. It's placed in the right
in the heart
place.
of Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly. It's right there. I mean, you can't miss it, you know. And if people want to get there, it's easier to get to MSG than it is to the Brooklyn Nets, even though it's not a bad ride, but it's easier to get to MSG. And, you know, corporations now are full up getting those tickets and everything else. The normal fan can't afford those tickets anymore.
Yeah.
That's another thing, you know. But, you know, it's a shame because if there were a lot of fans that didn't show up, then the Knicks would hurt money-wise, and then they would start getting their act together because right now, every 2 to 3 years, changing a coach, changing this, changing that, James Dolan is still there. It gets to a point where you're a diehard Knicks fan, but you really want things to change. Now, do you see them going in the right direction?
Do I see them going in the right direction as we speak? Contrary to what certain members of the media might think, no, they're not going in the right direction.
Why do you say that? Because they are doing what they said they were going to do. They're not making
Because
stupid moves.
they are still making questionable moves to try and fill that roster.
What do you mean by questionable moves? Is it the contracts, the one-year contracts that they're making? I don't get it. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because to me, they're going, as long as they say, because remember, their motto is now, be patient, let's get the young guys in. That's fine. Now, if they're getting these one-year people contracts so that they can try to get a big name on a trade, that's great. Because people, they're trying to get into underneath the salary cap and everything else this year and for next year, because it's going to be tough. Because there's only 72 games. So everything is tough. If they get, let's say they keep Barrett, they keep Robertson, let's say they keep Knox and one or two young guys, right? And let's say the number 8 guy is the center that you wanted, right? Mm-hmm. Or the guard that they wanted. If that's a name, they're going in the right direction. If they get a good guy in the number 8 spot, or if they trade up or down, depending upon who they pick, that means they're going in the right direction, because it's still, the average age is from 19 to 24 now, 25?
19 to 24.
So if they keep within that range and they get, let's say, that center, or they get that guard, or let's say for some miracle they get Lamar Ball, or him.
They would have to trade up in order to get him, and quite frankly, I don't see that happening.
Let's say they did do that, or let's say they get one of the guys that I just sent you. That's going in the right direction. They're going in the right direction. They're slowly doing it, and they're going to be painful to see. But if they go in the right direction of, okay, they picked this guy, he's good. They picked the other guy. Eventually they got to play like a team, because all teams go through that. In the end, the Pacers go through that. All other teams have gone through those growing pains. And this is the first time I've seen them stick from 18 to 24. Now,
you honestly think that by drafting Kevin Knox and R.J. Barrett, the Knicks are going in the right direction? There are guys who feel that Kevin Knox has been a complete flop after 2 years. R.J. Barrett, there are guys who feel that Barrett is on the edge of being a bust. The only pick that made any sense is Mitchell Robinson.
So who would you have picked?
Not Kevin Knox.
No, I'm saying in the era of R.J. Barrett, who would you have picked?
Definitely not R.J. Barrett. That's for damn sure.
So who in that draft?
I want to go back. I want to go back to that draft and see exactly.
Because they were what, number 2 or number 3 at the time? Well, they were number 3. And he was one of the best players in the league at the time. Not that, because there have been busts too. There have been busts that you get draft pick number 1 and that guy doesn't show anything. There have been busts, but I don't think that this guy's a bust. I think that they just on a growing. They're growing pains. I mean, they need players. You keep on saying that they need players. They need players. They need players. He's not. If you're expecting a superstar, I don't think he's that type of superstar. Not yet.
And to answer your question, Tyler Herro of the Heat lasted 12 picks before he wound up being drafted by Miami. That's number 1.
Right.
What about DeAndre Hunter? He went to the next pick, And DeAndre Hunter wound up being a part of a championship team with the Lakers.
Right.
That's number 2.
But look remember the team that they're playing on. The Lakers. LeBron James. Okay?
Yeah.
They're not in the rebuilding stage either. So go ahead. The top three in the R.J. Barrett was number 3. And the first 2,
Zion Williamson and Ja Morant, who, by the way, was the Rookie of the Year.
exactly. What happened to those 2? One
was Rookie of the Year. Another was hurt for more than half the season.
Exactly.
And then when he came back, it was too late for him to help the Pelicans make a run for the playoffs.
Exactly. And that's what I mean now. Zion Williams was in a good team, wasn't he not?
He was on an okay squad, not a great squad with the Pelicans.
And John Morant, was he in a good team?
Was on a semi-500 club with Memphis. But let me tell you, he transformed a Memphis team which won maybe 20 games the year before and turned them into a 30 to 35 win squad in a shortened season.
Right.
Think what he could have done if they had played 82 games. I think they could have been a playoff team.
Exactly. But you got to remember, there are guys that can take the team and put them on their backs, depending upon who's on their team.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Now, we're talking about the New York Knicks. Sometimes, because how many times have you seen a guy leave the New York Knicks and blossom into a whole different player?
Too many times to count.
So this is what I'm saying. You know, R.J. Barrett at number 3 was good. Robinson was good for its work. Kevin Knox, for what it was worth, is he a bust still? I don't know, because the team is not that good yet.
He's had 2 years and he hasn't shown any improvement.
If you get more chess pieces in there, I'm sure that the team will grow to the point where then you can say, all right, they're going in the right direction, fine. But if, like you said, they need practically in every position, they need a guy in there. So how are you going to say, oh, they should be winning already if they don't have the pieces in there?
You know why?
Right
because
now,
it's been 10
right now
years.
they're just choosing right now they're getting the pieces because they have a lot of draft choices. Now, hopefully, they'll pick the personnel that they pick in there, because that's a whole different ball game. Hopefully, management will pick the right person for those positions, because now it's a different management once again.
It's not a totally different management. Scott, what's his face is still there. Scott Perry. He's still there.
One guy.
And then there's the common denominator, which is that slime of an owner whose name will not be mentioned on this show.
Exactly. But you got Leon Rose. You got
big deal.
And you got everybody else. And you have, and I don't know about the coaching staff, if they changed any, but you got everybody else that has changed in there. Different coaches, what else is new? You know? You know, at some point, they got to hit instead of miss all the time. They can't miss all the time. At one point, they got to hit, because, you know, they did make the playoffs in 2002. You know, and
2002. You mean 2004?
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. In 2004, they made the playoffs. Nobody thought they were ever going to make the playoffs.
And they wound up getting swept by the Nets.
But again, they made the playoffs.
And they got swept by the Nets.
Exactly. But who was the person that kept on saying they would never make the playoffs?
Who?
You.
And what's gone on the last 7 years? No playoffs.
Remember, you used to say before the Knicks will never make the playoffs. And now, what
And they
happened
still
that year?
won't.
They made the playoffs. Now this year, now after that, have they made the playoffs? No. Look what's happened to them. Look what's happened to them. Every 3 years, new coaches. Every 3 years, they don't know what they're doing a lot of times. They don't know what they're doing. Finally, they're trying to rebuild. And now that they're trying to rebuild, like I said, hopefully they'll get a good pick this year. At number 8 and the other draft pick, I think they have number 27 and 31.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll get good draft choices. If they get really good draft choices this year, even though this year is not supposed to be the greatest lot in the world, but if they get good drafts this year, they'll be okay. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know, because it's a 72 game now. It's not that much. There's not that many games. What was it before? 82, 100?
82.
It was 82.
100 included the playoffs.
So that's including the playoffs. So including the playoffs, it was 82, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now 76. Does it make that much of a difference?
Very, very little.
Because it all depends. Because what is it? The playoffs. If you take the playoffs out of the 76 games, how much is that?
And for the record, the upcoming season is going to be 72 games, not 76.
Oh, 72 games.
72 games.
That's including the playoffs.
That's without the playoffs. With the playoffs, it's going to be bordering on 90 to 100.
It's going to be something. It's going to be something.
Yeah.
And with baseball too, do you think they'll go back to shortening up the season?
For next year?
Yeah.
I certainly hope not, because I can't survive on just 60 games worth of baseball. I need 162 games to try and whet my appetite.
Yeah, but you're not the one that's playing the 162 games, okay?
I wish I was, because if I was, I'd be making a hell of a lot more money.
Yeah, that's true too. But the other thing is that what the Mets did as well.
Yeah.
They cleaned house. I told you. Leon Van Broten, he was gone.
Yep.
I told you he was going to clean house. And now...
Didn't think it was the right move, but to each their own.
I thought it all depends how you're seeing it. Because now that the other people that own the Mets, now you have a new Mets owner, maybe the guy could have flourished. Maybe it wasn't his fault. Maybe it was the owner's fault that held his hands tight, like they do with Dolan. They keep on saying, "Oh, you have full autonomy, and you've got nothing." Maybe that was a big lie. But now that you have a new owner, let's see what happens with the Mets now. And will the Mets get rid of their coaching staff now? Will they get rid of the coach? Who knows?
We could go anywhere with this thing. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I don't feel that the manager should go, because he's only had a year to prove himself. I mean, granted, he made his mistakes, but at the same time, he's been a faithful servant to the organization for what seems like 30 years.
But that wasn't the coach that they wanted.
It wasn't the coach that they wanted, but it was the coach that was the most loyal.
Yeah, but loyalty in certain things like this, loyalty doesn't count anymore like it used to be. And that's a proven fact. But
And it's a shame too.
it is. But like I said before, when you buy something, when an owner buys something, they want their own management team. They want their own people there. And sometimes there are one or two people like Herb Williams. He stood there for years, seeing coach after coach leaving, and somehow or another, Herb Williams stayed.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's going to happen to the organization? How are the Mets, are they going to be a new team?
In other words, do you think they're going to be big spenders in free agency? I would certainly hope so, and I would certainly hope that they pick the right free agents too.
Because I just sent you about something about the Yankees too, and them getting that guy. I think it's the catcher or the shortstop.
If you're talking about Francisco Lindor, then yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think? Who do you think?
Let's see. You know what? Let's see the Mets. Let's see the Mets get off to a good start by being bold. Let's see them try and contact the Cleveland Indians about a deal for Francisco Lindor.
Now, let me ask you, if you had a split between the Yankees and the Mets, who would you put on the Yankees and who would you put on the Mets?
What do you mean, who would I put on the Yankees and Mets?
For instance, Lindor would be on the Mets. Who would you put on the Yankees? Now, which free agent would go for the Yankees? Which pitcher or catcher or whatever? That's a free agent. So you can make it even.
Quite frankly, I think the Mets need a guy like Francisco Lindor more than the Yankees do to be the shortstop.
All right.
I mean, you can argue with Andre Jimenez, but no one knows what this kid's ceiling is going to be like.
All right.
As far as the Yankees are concerned,
right,
get a pitcher.
Okay.
Get somebody like Corey Kluber.
All right.
If possible, maybe re-sign Masahiro Tanaka.
Would you get rid of Luke Vogt?
Would I get rid of Luke Voigt, you mean?
Yeah, Voigt, yeah.
He's been a good player for them for a year and a half. I'm not really sure I would go that far. Who would they go to be their first baseman, though? Resign DJ LeMahieu, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, LeMahieu can play all across the infield.
But
here's an idea for you. How about JT Realmuto to be the catcher?
For the Mets or the Yankees?
For the Mets.
Okay.
Specifically for the Mets.
That'll be fine. I would go for it. And who would the Yankees get then?
After that, the number of free agent catchers drops off immensely. So my guess would be maybe, because I'm not really sure if Kyle Higashioka would be an everyday catcher for them. Maybe go after James McCann of the White Sox. I mean, he's not much of a hitter, but he's a really good defender.
Yeah, and should the Yankees go after Stroman or should the Mets go after Stroman? Forget his mouth. Forget his mouth. Is he that good of a pitcher?
He's a very good pitcher. When he's on his A game, he's a very good pitcher. And also, when he's got a really good defense behind him, he could be all-star-like.
Yeah.
But there's the issue of his. I know you don't want to harp on this, but there's the issue of his mouth.
Right. No,
he thinks a little bit too highly of himself, and quite frankly, I'm not really sure I want someone like him poisoning that locker room, either locker room, to be honest with you.
That's true, But sometimes you got to be that way in order to get high. But let me say this: at this point in time, you have you separated the teams pretty good, though.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do with Cano's contract? Would you eat it and let him go?
Unfortunately, I mean, it's not like he hasn't been a complete shell of himself. I mean, his problem is he's been a little bit too injury prone. And he did play a little bit decent second base this past season. So I'm not really sure if eating his contract would be such a good idea. Maybe try and use him as part of a trade. See if somebody would try to convince someone to take on the majority of that deal.
Or you would have to take that majority of that contract. That's another thing too.
Or maybe the Mets would have to take on the majority of that deal.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, though, Robinson Cano's been really good for the Latin players in the clubhouse. He's been a real mentor for them.
That's great. I mean, that's great. That's great. That really is great.
And he's such a professional hitter too. He uses all of the field so well.
Now, does he remind you of Rod Carew? Even though
That's
Rod
the
Carew was
comparison
the most
that
outstanding.
That's the comparison that people like to use with Cano.
Well, then that's a high standard because Carew was one of the best hitters of all time.
Yeah, 3,000 hit guy.
And he used, if you check out his charts, he used every part of the field. He had strong wrists.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to hit I mean, he could have gone for the home run. But he was more of a slap ball hitter. But he did do what he was supposed to do, though.
Mm-hmm.
And George Brett was another one.
That's right.
That used the whole field. But the ones that really impress me are the ones that they do the shift for, and somehow they sneak the ball past them.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Is this shift even necessary? Because there have been hitters who've been able to beat the shift numerous times.
It all depends who the hitter is, because 9 out of 10 times you'll see that it all depends who the player is, because most of the time that particular play will hit the ball where it's supposed to be. But I think it was Giambi. They used to do the shift for him, and he used to slap the ball everywhere else. So I don't know. I guess it all depends on the shift. But one last thing. Now that we have a new president, thank God.
Yes.
Do you think there'll be a lot of protests now with the sports players?
Will there be protests among the sports players? Not
Yeah.
anymore. If you look at LeBron James' Twitter account, there was a gif of him smoking a cigar in celebration.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing how with the new, if the old president decides to leave, if he doesn't cry and scream and shout, and there's no voter fraud or anything of that nature, which there should not be, I want to see how the people are going to react to this particular president and see what they do, and how sports players are going to react.
No, we're going to have to wait and see.
So it's 7:59. It's time to say goodbye.
Yes, sir. Hector, Kenny on the other side of the glass, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
And thanks to you guys at home for watching as well. So for everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
We hope you have a very nice Veterans Day coming up in a couple of days. Good night,
Yes,
everyone.
sir.